Abu wants to come home. He's got compassionate leave from that prison in America. Do we want him back? I've got a very simple answer next. How do, Mush? People often say to me, do you like Scampi? I said I like all the Disney movies, and my favourite is, of course, Abu from Aladdin. Well, now Abu wants to come home from America. At a time when we're arresting preachers and clergymen, and indeed pastors, for speaking the papal dogma, it's amazing to me that these people have no problem with these people coming home. We send a very direct message to Prickstick Patel that you don't want people to read the Bible on the streets and have them arrested, but you do want to allow him back. Surely that's not going to happen, is it?
So just to be clear, the man who is the king of hate speech wants to come back to the UK, and he'll probably have his human rights approved and be allowed to do so. That's where we're at in 2021.
You're not going to allow this, are you? Okay, common sense, please, Prickstick. Stop him coming back. Do the right thing, my darling. I'll leave it there. Okay, you know what I'm saying? All right, my darling? One rule for one and all that. Thank you. Howdy, Chunky, live across the world for a Monday morning. This is the Voice of Reason, and it does feel like it's the big man versus the little man all the time. There's a charity shop in Worcestershire. They're going to have to change their name from Amaze because they've had a 35-page legal letter from Amazon who say it's far too similar. It will have to go. Why would they care about a charity shop that's trying to do some good? No sense of humour, no sense of humility, just a sense of megalomaniac. Who do these people think they are at Amazon? The BBC? How do much? We see these stories all the time and they make my piss boil when we see the little man downtrodden by big business. As if Amazon haven't got everything on their side during a pandemic, that we're all buying from the online tippy-tappy. Yes, we're all spending all of our money getting things delivered that ordinarily we would have gone out and bought for ourselves, but we can't because Boris has locked us up. Well, now there's a charity shop that tried to amaze with very, very reasonably priced gifts at much cheaper prices than Amazon because they're second-hand, presumably. And Amazon caught wind of this, God knows how. Presumably there's been a snooper's chart or something. You might want to look on the high street. There's a charity shop that's got you. Oh, do fuck off, you sanctimonious box tickers. There's always somebody snitching, isn't there? There's always somebody who's got to poke you in the back and be a little Nazi reading their Goebbels manual on how to ruin the world. Why can't we leave the little man alone? All right, it looks a bit familiar, but it's a tick and Amaze. Amaze is not Amazon. I think you could argue this. I know of a producer at the moment who keeps getting legal letters after legal letters because he's used the word extreme. You can't copyright a fucking word. It's in the dictionary. Now, I understand logos are copyrighted. I understand that we have to protect things. But it does feel, doesn't it, like always it's on the side of the man with the deepest pockets and the biggest lawyers. Well, it's time we turn this round. That's why I made my video last night about what's going on with the High Court and how we're going to get, if you don't sign this and pay us, we're going to go to the High Court and gag you. Well, let's go. Let's go to the High Court and see whether a judge agrees. Didn't go very well for Rachel Riley last week. Just because you're big, and I said this before about the police, it doesn't mean that you'll get your own way. Just because you're tempestuous and an arrogant little prick doesn't mean a judge will agree with you. He will rule on the law. And that's what I said about the Kung Flu laws that have all been thrown out now by the CPS. The judges have ruled they were unlawful. The laws were not lawful. Doesn't matter which police officer gives them to you. Doesn't matter which little pig-nosed, bold-eared fella bashes through your door. All that matters is the law and the truth. So it's very important we stick with that. And also defend the little man. This is a shame. All right, it's very similar. And maybe he should change it. But don't change it much. Keep your name Amaze. They cannot possibly copyright the word Amaze. Just get rid of the little squiggly thing under it, put it on the side and change the colour. That's your own logo. That's all it is. But the fact they'd go to this amount of effort, 35 pages, to shut this man down, it's just pitiful. Hello Chunky, it's a Wednesday, live across the world, the phoning back tonight from 9. You know, people often say to me, do you mind not poking that towards my wife? No, people often say to me, why are you so damning of the whippersnappers? I say, well, the problem is, you see, they're as thick as two short planks. They're on things like Tickety Tockety, a new app for mogadons and dopes that want to be influenced by putting things on their face that nearly sends them blind. Yes, you have to realise these people need to be incarcerated for their own safety. It's the only safe way forward. Howdy team, it's a Wednesday and here we go again then, another example of where we need to protect these people from themselves. They shouldn't be allowed on social media because they're so gullible, and by the way, I don't know if you know, the word gullible is no longer in the dictionary. Oh yes, the lefty quiche eaters had it taken out. Anyway, that wasn't why you called. Do check, by the way, to make sure gullible isn't in the dictionary. The thing is, these young girls particularly seem to be a little limp under the cap, a little hard of thinking, and too tempted by the opportunity to beautify themselves by putting things like acid on their cheeks and on their eyeballs to make them more beautiful. What can we do to help these type of people? I mean, they're so stupid that they don't even understand that you would never take advice from anybody on social media about anything. You should always have complete contempt for anything that's written on social media, as we know, and make your own mind up based out of experience and based out of the fact that most people will be working you from behind and lying. The fact you'd put a chemical on your face to help beautify yourself, as this girl demonstrates, just ends up with you looking, well, rather peculiar. In fact, to be honest with you, I think Anne Widdecombe at this point is more attractive than this young lady, who, if you don't mind me saying, and you'll say, creepy old man, actually is quite beautiful in the first place. What is in these heads of these bonkers people, these delusional whippersnappers that think that they're ugly when they're not, and that they need to beautify themselves when they're still only, I don't know, 18, 19 years old and at their peak beautiness? There is an illness, isn't there, with these type of people, and I do blame the Kardashians and Katie Price and these type of idiots, these influencers who want to, on the one hand, say they're going bankrupt whilst on holiday in a 5-star resort and then be buying a £10,000 horse. I don't know what Katie Price intends to do with her £10,000 horse, but all I'll say is sometimes I wish I was a horse. I mean, only sometimes. She will mount it several times a week, I'm sure, which will be to the pleasure of her latest husband number 17, and let's hope he's got a lot of money, because, of course, horses don't pay for themselves, and if she can afford the £10,000 horse, a bit like if you can afford a Range Rover, it's not buying it that's the problem, it's replacing the bits that go wrong, and as Katie knows more than anyone, her bits tend to go wrong on a weekly basis, and that's why she spends half her life wrapped in bandages. So, bit of advice then to the thicko mogadon, lefty snowflake, Guardian reading, champagne sipping, twirly type mogadon whippersnappers. Please stop putting things on your face or you'll end up looking hideous like this young lady.
I'm 25.
Do you mind going there, or do you want to just move on? Because I'd be curious to talk to you about being 25 and blind. How is it?
Different. Yeah, I can talk. It's hard. I lost my sight at 19. It was a hard journey. I was at university and everything. It was And
what happened?
Now,
do you mind me asking?
I also always had an eye condition, but I thought it was going to go in my mid-40s. I've got retinitis pigmentosa.
Right.
But it came on really quickly, and
so that's normally degenerative, is it? And then it's for some reason, right? Okay.
Yeah. So now I've got my guide dog now, and I'm happy. I'm good. I've got a nice girlfriend.
Forgive me for not caring about you and your blindness. Tell me about the guide dog. What is it? A Labrador?
Yeah, it's a yellow Labrador called Ryder.
Thank God they didn't give you a Shih Tzu, because you wouldn't see the difference, would you, sir? That's the problem.
No.
There's an old comedian's gag. Hey, listen, that's amazing. So you've got your guide dog and you've got your girlfriend as well. This is marvelous.
I do.
Now this must be like Braille. Now, is she attractive? Because how much of there is there to feel? Because in Braille, the big bone girls. I mean, imagine being blind and with well, no, I won't say it. It'll be clipped.
I mean, you have to go for another week.
But when you're fit, this must be marvelous. This is extra sensory.
Well, my friends tell me, are you sure she's not the one who's blind?
Yes. Are you a deeply unattractive man like me? I mean, have you ever seen, do you have any idea what I look like? Because have you ever seen David Beckham? I sort of look like a bit, the Magic Mike Live fella.
No, Magic Mike Live fella. I understand.
Yes, something like that. Listen, joking aside, to be 25 at the peak of your life, really, 25 it wasn't for me, by the way. 30 was my peak, where I just loved it, and 30 to 40 has been amazing, and the success and the comfortability, if you like, of my life is 30 was when it started, and now I just couldn't give two fucks. Who cares one thing, I can't be touched, which is amazing. But at 25, a young man, and all that, are you bitter or angry at the fact that that's sort of been taken away from you a bit, or have you been able to live a full life?
Well, I'm getting there, like slowly but surely. Obviously, it took me a few years to. Like, I was bitter, very bitter for a long
and you
time.
have every right to be. By the way, you
Yeah,
have
yeah.
every right to be. So you should, because.
But now I'm happy. I'm all right. I've got a good family around me. I've got good friends, lovely girlfriend, and I'm happy. The only thing, this is what I was saying, the only thing that pissed me off was about the bungalows across the road. I was going, it'll be perfect for me with my MS. I lost my sight here, and I've got my guide dog, and I know where I'm going. So I was like, they'll be perfect. It wasn't given to me. Apparently, it wasn't given to me because I didn't tick the right boxes, and because I wasn't in a wheelchair. And I was like, hang on a minute. And the people who are living there now aren't even in wheelchairs. And I'm like,
I've got this. There's a gentleman, I don't know whether you heard the call a few weeks ago from Andrew, who, by the way, I've been helping. We've got 2 councils who are now trying to work out how we move him. You're going to love this story, right? He's been put in such a hovel. The RSPCA came round and took away his guide dog because it wasn't suitable for animals. But they left him in the house. I'm not kidding. This is no joke, right? This is a true story. And he's now trying to get out. And I've made calls to the council. And Lancashire Council, I have to say, have been great. We haven't got there yet, but it takes a long time because of all his equipment, and he's got various disabilities that we need to get sorted. And Liverpool Council are trying to move him in. And I've given him 2 weeks, and then I'm going to kick off because you have to give people time. But the notion that you would move out a guide dog because it's not fit for purpose for an animal, but leave the man in, this is the world we're at. And again, it just goes to prove there's discrimination within discrimination, right?
Yeah, for sure.
They discriminated against you because you weren't disabled enough, even though you can't see. It's ridiculous. Wow.
In fact, I lost my sight here and I know everything. And my family's around here. It's like, what else am I supposed to do? Going to supported living? No, thank you. It's like...
Before we go, sir, would you like to send a picture of your girlfriend to me, and I'll tell you whether she's fit or not, and then you'll know whether you're with a hottie or you've actually, you could do better. Because maybe you could do, maybe you're with a 7 and could get an 8. I don't know how attractive you are. I would hate to think you're an 8 and you've gone with a 5 because you can't see. This would be terrible, sir. So send me a picture of both of you, and I'll tell you whether you should be punching up or punching down. I could be your Cupid. All right, sir.
All right, Alex.
All right, thanks for ringing. Hey, listen, great to talk to you. And I love your spirit. I love your entire disposition. I love your optimism. And never change, sir. Please, I promise.
Thank you. This will keep up with your show.
But this will get you through life. That optimism is amazing.
Morning Mush, it's a Saturday live across the world. This is the Voice of Reason, and I have to say, even by my standards, covering the police quite closely over the last few months, this week has been probably the biggest PR disaster for Her Majesty's Police Service. A service that is there to serve us, a service that is there to protect us, and a service that have seen no less than five stories of brutality against members of the public that have left officers sacked, suspended, or even in jail this week. Howdy much, here we go then for another weekend live across the world. It is the Voice of Reason, and we see some of the most atrocious policing across the UK. Whether it's the preacher who was wrongly arrested, we saw that, didn't we? 2 examples actually this week of 2 different clergymen on their knees ramming the fear of God into people. We saw firstly, didn't we, the hate crime that they say when you say thou shalt not lie with a man, you are now committing a hate crime. So I mean, there's no hope for any of us, including myself, and of course the police look like fools again. Much more seriously though, yesterday we saw the story at King's Cross of a policeman with such venom in his eyes, and this is what worries me about the police. They appear to be completely stark raving bonkers and out of control. This story is one of many that is just unbelievable, that we read that a woman was hit with a baton 34 times. 34 times. As if this story isn't bad enough, we then see another story where police got out of control. They seem as if they're using disproportionate force left, right and centre. How are we meant to have confidence in these people when they're so regularly being caught going above and beyond the remit of their truncheon. They need to keep it to themselves now, don't they? More seriously, this week we saw 4 police officers who have been convicted of the most appalling crime, beating up a man. And again, we look at the detail of it and we say to ourselves, how could this be the United Kingdom? It feels like they're off the rails and out of control. You know, I've said it before and I keep saying it again. The only way the police are going to get respect is by doing the right thing for the right reasons and treating people the way we treated them, which was with respect, not contempt, with civility, not aggression. And they seem to not understand that fire meets fire. If you go in all guns blazing, that's how people are going to react. I've seen it myself, how these goons behave. This mob, this group of thickos who come and want to talk at you, not to you. And of course, they don't have the dexterity of language. They don't have the ability to communicate, and that leaves them at a very, very low ebb when it comes to being confronted by people like me. You know, I don't expect everybody to be able to challenge the police like I have. I don't expect anybody to go through what I've gone through on a matter of principle, sticking up for free speech and the right to have an opinion. But my God, when we see the brutality that's going on across this United Kingdom, you have to wonder, when is Priti Patel going to stop this PR disaster? It makes her look a fucking fool. You know, this is her police force that are day in and day out having corrupt officers, goon officers, mob officers, angry officers, and even criminal officers being sacked, suspended and sent to jail for their behaviour. How can this be United Kingdom? How can this be us? Sort it out. You're a laughingstock, and you're the very people we need to trust, respect and turn to when we're in need. Howdy, Chunky. It's the voice of reason for a Monday morning, and there is some common sense at last. It's going to be law that you have to have gents and ladies' toilets in every public building. And this is wonderful because it protects both ladies and gents, even if those ladies are a little ambivalentious and don't know whether they want to be gents, or gents don't know whether they're non-binary and want to be gender fluids as women. Either way, whether you're a boy or a girl or a boy becoming a girl becoming a boy, at least we now know that there is an option for all, and that I can't be accused of going in the wrong toilets when I'm stood there with my winkle in my hand in the ladies because I got confused being a non-binary 21-year-old millennial who's a little ambivalentious and confused. Thank God I'm now 27 and know exactly what I am. How do much? This is a turn up for the books, and this is some great news. It finally brings some common sense to these lefty snowflake dopes who want to ruin our world by making everything non-binary and everything so silly. You know, boys will be girls and the girls will be boys. They've got their scissors and they play with their toys. I'm happy for anybody to be what they want to be, and they must be what they want to be. But that doesn't mean I have to go to the toilet while I've got ladies farting in the other cubicle. What I don't need is ladies who were once boys or vice versa stood next to me and I'm going, well, what is this? Is this a non-binary toilet, or am I in a freak show? You never know what's going on, really, do you? Because you're stood there and you won't know. So now we will know that when we go in the blokes, it will be blokes and women will be women. And that's what I like. We brought you the story, didn't we, of the university up in Glasgow, where they're now sacking people, suspending people and causing a lot of bother over saying that ladies have fufus and men have man sausage. This is where we're at now, that people are actually debating science and facts and things that you're born with. This is how ridiculous it's become. So I want to give 2 thumbs up for Boris for sorting this out. If you can now sort out free speech, that would be wonderful too, Boris, because we've had enough of this bullshit. It's lefty nonsense. It's Guardian reading crap, and it's being promoted by those who don't know whether they're Arthur or Martha in Bombay or Morecambe Bay, and those who just want to play the victim. We've had enough. I want to go in the gents if I go in the gents. I don't really use public toilets. I'm not really into public movements. But you know what I'm saying? If you do have to go in an emergency, we need to know which direction for which gender. And whether you like it or not, gender does exist. As much as you cuckoo types are trying to tell yourself it doesn't. If it weren't for men and women, you wouldn't be here, you little shite. So we need to be very clear about one thing. Foo-foo and man sausage is the future of the world. Not ambivalation about whether you might be this or you might be that. There's only one way you make a baby, and that's if the stork brings it. Met police officer steals from drug dealers might be the funniest, most depressing headline I've ever seen. It's not a joke. It happened yesterday and the courts found him guilty. What hope is there when dodgy DCs, PCs, DSs, inspectors or indeed chief constables are up to shenanigans within our police force? It confirms what I've been saying for months, that the police need policing. Cressida Dick says she's appalled at the thought that people might steal from druggies to profit within the police force. But my question now is, what is she going to do about it? I mean, what are we going to do when we've got the police force stealing from people to profit not just a little bit, but an awful lot of money from drug dealers? I mean, there's always been bent cops, and we've always loved watching things like The Thin Blue Line or Line of Duty, where we think it's fun. We've always known there's been dodgy DCs and police officers like Percival at Mansfield Police Station. We see it on dramas all the time, don't we? But to think that in real life, somebody would be willing to sign off a bail document not just once, twice, but 3 times unlawfully and illegally to shut someone up and gag them, that's bad enough. But to think within the Met, there are officers arresting people and then stealing their drugs to send them to even bigger drug dealers elsewhere in foreign parts. You know, the idea that the police runs on a shushy-shushy system of trying to keep people shushy-shushy from telling the truth, we realise that it is game over, and now somebody has to do something. I think we can all confirm, can't we, that Priti Patel has got an unlawful police service that are simply out of control. I'm sure there are the odd good one within the ranks, but it seems to me they're far outweighed this week by people in court who are doing everything from putting their foot over someone's head and leading to the death of a footballer, to PCSOs in court over hundreds, if not thousands, of dodgy pictures that would blow your mind. I mean, the absolute worst of images with children who are just being abused for his edification. And then we've got other stories like this, guilty for stealing from drug dealers. This has to be a joke. What are they going to do, though? That's the question. How do you begin to sort this out? We found out, didn't we? Manchester Police, Greater Manchester Police, Andy Burnham's force sent in consultants. They spent £300,000 to try and find out what's going on, and what have they done? Covered up the report. This puts me in mind of when the BBC had a man called John Myers go in and sort them out. My hero and best friend, dear man in radio, wonderful, fantastic guy who basically said they waste a lot of fucking money and half of them should be sacked. What did they do with that report? Bury it and edit it. Yes, the former then boss of local radio took bits out. That's the thing. You have a report done and you don't like it because it's too embarrassing, so you edit it. Surely that's not the point of paying hundreds of thousands of pounds for consultants to tell you the truth for you to then ignore it still. You know, from the very top to the bottom, we've got to do something. I mean, from officers being shot dead in custody suites because they're not doing searches, to the fact that officers are alleged to have murdered women, taking them in their cars, to what we've seen today. There is institutional corruption, right? There is an attitude that you can get away with anything because you're the police. If this was a third world country, we'd say, nah, this is silly. This is our United Kingdom. What hope have I got of getting out of this corruption from Nottingham Police when the Chief Constable won't even acknowledge in writing that we've got proof in writing from their own lawyer that their DC is a liar? She signed off a bail that she knew didn't exist. Why? Because she thought she could. And this comes back to the BBC. It's the same kind of thing with the reporting of news and their bias and their constant shushy of the truth and shut anybody up like me who wants to expose them. They believe they're so privileged and entitled and protected they can get away with anything. But you know what? A testament to your character is what you think you can get away with when no one's looking. I've never been that guy. That's why I'm squeaky clean. That's why they've got nothing on me. That's why they can't find a charge. But can you say the same, DC Percival? You liar? Can you say the same, this police officer who's sold his drugs, stealing from drug dealers? I mean, this is hysterical. This is your United Kingdom. It's terrifying. How do, Chunky? It's a Monday, live across the world. This is The Voice of Reason. My name's Alex Belfield. If you missed the phone in last night, oh, it was a good one, do watch again by going to the live section. So what are ITV up to now? Well, their wokery continues. Oh, yes, they don't mind being woke flakes. These snowflakes of television that love ticking boxes, tick, 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 tick. Well, now guess what they're doing? They're ruining Emmerdale by putting drag queens on it. Yes, those men who aren't funny that think putting a dress on is an act. No, it isn't. It's just you dressing up like an infantilized big baby. Well, now, of course, their second biggest soap is going to be rampaged by more political correctness. I think I'll switch off. Do you know, I only used to watch Emmerdale for the fresh air. I'll do mush. So here we go again then, another day and more box ticking, more proof that TV just has lost the plot. They don't understand their audience, they don't understand what we want. They are too busy trying to pacify the lefties, trying to get government grants by ramming in box tickers left, right and centre. And what are they doing now next month? Oh, celebrating LGBTQ+, because of course in the Yorkshire Dales, this is one of the biggest events of the year. Never mind strawberry teas, never mind summer fairs. No, what are they doing? They're having the LGBTQ conference, and they've hired the Vivian. Yes, a drag queen called Viv. Hardly Dame Edna, a very thin-looking woman who looks like she needs a sandwich or something warm inside her at the very least. This is, of course, a man in a frock. I wonder where he's hiding it. Do they tuck it between their legs, or is it just so small, like members of Nottingham Police, that you can't really see it with a very tight leotard? Oh, Cara Vorderman will give him tips on that. Well, this is marvellous, isn't it? This is the future now that the BBC drag waste people are now overwhelming our TVs on things like Emmerdale. I mean, what next? Are we going to start having, box tickers on all kinds of programmes? Let me think. The first trans baby on how to push out a baby programme. That 24 hours in pushing out babies? Yes, where you get a rhinoceros and push it through a polo mint. What's that programme called, Tarquin? Oh, yes, How to Have a Baby Live. Caesarean section. I was a caesarean baby, and you never get over it, When I get out the car now, I always go out through the sunroof. It's depressing, isn't it, really, that this is what TV's become. Too interested in entertaining themselves. You know who writes for Emmerdale, don't you? A load of whippersnappers. Who produces it? A load of whippersnappers. And who directs it? And who are the tea makers on it? The people who like the LGBTQ box stickers. The people who like the drag queens. So we must put them in Emmerdale. Totally incongruous, totally ridiculous. You've got old farts at the bar who drive tractors drinking bitter, now stood next to people sipping Chardonnay while stood there in a frock. Well, good for you, Emmerdale. You have the time of your life with the drag queens. I shall watch something else, like Danica on YouPorn. Proper ladies with lady parts that are willing to show them for your pure entertainment. That's what you need to get your ratings up. A bit of ooh, 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 ooh. 1-2 book of my shoe at 7:30 on ITV. Ratings winner. Never mind drag queens. Get out the lady garden. You're a very old man, Mr. Belfield, and you just simply don't understand. What don't I understand is that Pixar are auditioning for a 14-year-old to play a trans part in their new Pixar thing, an animated thing for children. And they want somebody to authentically play the part of a girl, who therefore is already transcending, which is fine if that's what you think is acceptable. But I find this very worrying, and I'll tell you why next. I'll do much live across the world for a Tuesday. This is the Voice of Reason. It's Alex Belfield. I have two problems with this story. Pixar are looking and auditioning a trans person of junior youth to play the part of a person who is under 16. And I have a problem with this for two reasons. One, I'm nervous that people might be tempted because showbiz types are generally bonkers and desperate to get into show business, so they will sell their own mother, chop off their own private parts to get a gig, and literally may do so to audition for one of the most controversial young people's programs in history. Whether it's a film, we don't know yet. We don't know whether it's going to be a series, but it is going to be made by Pixar. A 14-year-old child, can we underscore the word child? You are not of consenting age at 14. Therefore, my belief, regardless of the trans issue, is that if you're underage, you are not therefore meant to be aware or thinking about private parts or anything to do with them. They are irrelevant yet. However, I'm fully aware that there are groups of people, especially in America, who believe young children, even babies, have the right to decide whether they want to be boys or girls. They decide to be whatever they want to be, and that's fine, providing they are of an adult age to consent to make that decision for themselves. That's my only thing. I am fully aware and not in any possible discussion or denial that there are people born in the wrong body who believe they should be in something else, but I am very concerned about young minds, and I've heard from many people over the years who didn't know their own mind and thought that they were trans, and in fact they weren't. It was just a phase. I equally know other people who decide to go the full bit and get on with it and chop bits off or sew bits on and become something else. And that's absolutely fine. You could be Arthur and Martha, you can be in Bombay or Morecambe Bay or Bangkok or Phuket. For me, it makes no difference. However, when children are involved, this makes me nervous. And I don't know what Pixar are trying to do here. I know they're trying to tick boxes. I know they're trying to look inclusive and diverse. Fine, good for you. But when we are encouraging young people to be defined by this in a public domain, I get nervous for two reasons. One, they are not able to make that decision because they're still a child. And two, this will live with them forever and be something they can't walk away from. It could be a mistake or something that they grow out of or whatever. I'm not saying all people do, and I'm not saying that it's wrong or right either way. I'm just simply trying to protect children, and surely nobody can disagree with that. We have to ask ourselves, why are Pixar, who make animation for children, even going here? Why do they need to do this? Well, they'll say it's because of diversity. We need to show trans people in cartoons. Do we though? Do we need to be underscoring anything other than love and joy and happiness for children? That's all I want. And we can put trans people in, but it shouldn't be underscored. It shouldn't be explained. We don't need to anymore explain that I have a penis or that she has a foo-foo any more than they used to have one and might have one now or are thinking of having one installed. And I repeat again, if anybody has any offcuts, I am so minuscule downstairs. I would love an extension putting in. If there's any surgeons available, I'd be very grateful. This makes me nervous. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm the voice of reason, and I know this will drive people nuts. There will be people, mental people, who watch every day who think they hate me but actually love me, going, he's outrageous, oh, tell J.K. Rowling, oh, start Twitter. Tell who you like. This is my opinion, and I believe I'm still entitled to it in 2021. I am not against any group of people. I am not anti anything. I am pro protecting children. And this worries me. How is this protecting the child that will be exposed publicly forever? And how does this protect those watching it who may be influenced or confused by it? I'm only interested in protecting our children. What do you think? Comment below. I do Chunky live across the world for a Sunday morning, and this is really staggering what has gone on at the post office and the impact this has had on people's lives. I made you a breaking news video on Friday, and I didn't really go into too much detail because really the top story is that the High Court has ruled that these people are not thieves, were never thieves, and that the post office deliberately ignored the fact that there were 39, in fact, coincidences that should have been explored. Their belief was that there couldn't be possibly a glitch in the system that could have looked like these people had stolen money. Many of them were made seriously ill. Some of them didn't survive, and some of them killed themselves. This was the impact of this witch hunt of lies by the post office to scorn these people who had done nothing wrong. Howdy much, it's Sunday live across the world. This is the voice of reason, and this post office story has blown my mind. To think that a witch hunt this big could be that successful, and it has taken many lives, it has taken many years, and it has taken endless amounts of lawyers to get the truth to out. But my belief, as I've said from the beginning, is the truth always outs in the end. But like I say, this is proof that when very powerful people are backed by even more powerful people, justice takes a long time to be served, and there have been tragic consequences in the meantime. The biggest scandal about this whole post office thing that people are not saying, of course, is the cost to life, which we know has been massive. But the fact that these people were not rich. These people had been accused of stealing amounts that they simply couldn't pay back. And in the case that they could pay it back, it took their entire livelihoods. It took their lives. It took the house that they saved their entire life to buy. It took their life savings. And the price of that was that these people were left with nothing to live for. They neither had the truth nor anyone on their side. But then who came in? The no-win, no-fee lawyers. This is the big scam of this post office story that nobody's talking about. I've spoken to many people about this over the years, and one of the biggest scandals is they had no choice but to sue with no-win, no-fee lawyers who took nearly everything they were given once they were successful, if they were successful. Now, here's what this government has to do. A bit like I've been praying for the Nottingham police to do, is realise that there has been a miscarriage of justice. They've been hoodwinked. There was massive mistakes and failings from managers who I'm sure will not be there anymore at the post office, people who will not be responsible because they've already gone on their yachts to live their millionaire lifestyles. They need to stand up and say, we're drawing a line under this now. Here's your £1 million compensation each, and you people need to go and live the lives that you should have been living for the last decade or so, taken away by the strain and the stress of this witch hunt and lies born out of a computer glitch that no one would believe. And again, you can't believe, can you, that 39 different people had the same story, and even though they were given the facts and the truth, no one wanted to believe them. It's not that they didn't believe them, they didn't want to believe them. Lives have been lost in this process, but most importantly, lawyers have got rich out of it. I don't have a lot of time for lawyers. Lawyers are kind of people who really only profit from other people's demise. And of course, their last hope is that you get resolution to anything because they then stop making money. That's the way the law works. They're working for themselves, not you. And this case sums that up, where these lawyers profited massively from the demise of these people. People who, in some cases, are no longer with us, either took their own lives or were killed by the stress. How do you put a price on that? How do you prove it? But why can't the government now do the right thing? Why do we live in a society when we know people have fucked up and made major life-changing mistakes, won't say, I'm sorry? A bit like Nottingham Police. Why won't they reply to my lawyers? Why won't they say, I'm sorry for what they've done that they know they've done wrong? 3 o'clock this afternoon, we're going to bring you a video about my story and the 2 new lies that they've exposed themselves by their next move. This game of chess is not going very well. It feels like checkmate already. But like with the post office, nobody's ever wrong. Nobody's willing to admit defeat. And their hope is that I'll top myself or I'll give up. And that's what they hoped with the post office story, that these people would give up. It's a national scandal, and these people should be paid compensation immediately without lawyers getting even richer than they already have. Breaking news from the Daily Mail this evening. We find out that Prince Philip died of old age. According to breaking news on the Daily Mail, they're always on the ball. A 99-year-old man pegs it of old age. Yes, in other breaking news from Mail Online this evening, as we go into this morning of Wednesday, we find out that Katie Price likes wedding cake, Arj from Towie likes burgers, and Dolly Parton sleeps on her back. How do, Chunky? So here we go then. Your breaking news that you've all been waiting for. Prince Philip did pass due to old age, which at 99 is no surprise. I also expect that he died due to, well, lack of breath, really. That's normally what most people peg it of. The man had a wonderful life, but it was tainted by a woman called Meghan Markle, who ruined the last few months of his life. A woman who today is bringing out a book, a little storybook for children. It's called How to Fall Out with Your Father, and it's wonderful, and all your best friends and your sister. And How to Sue, chapter 3 is How to Sue Newspapers. Yes, it's very, very good. And then chapter 4 is How to Marry a Prince. This is very much in keeping with the sort of Snow White story, other than the inappropriate kiss, because we can't do that anymore. And then, of course, chapter 69 is how you get him to go to America and become a lovey in La La Land and never see his family ever again. This woman, of course, is marvellous. Yes, she knows exactly what she's doing. She is continually protecting her privacy and not invading it under any circumstances during her 59 interview PR tour to promote the book. So don't you worry, there'll be no personal questions at all when she does interviews with Oprah, with Parkinson, with Terry Wogan, Jonathan Ross and Graham Norton. There will be absolutely no invasion of her privacy whatsoever. But we do confirm this evening that Prince Philip passed away due to old age, not due to the shock of having some whippersnapper, some left-footing Guardian reading, champagne-sipping woman who wants to tell us to save water whilst living in a mansion with 16 bathrooms, that his family were racist, that made him bust a blood vessel, and indeed his head exploded, which was, I think, the reason that he actually pegged it. But we can't put that on the coroner's report. It would not be edifying for a member of the royal family. So congratulations then that we now know that he did indeed live a long and prosperous life. He was a hero of this country who stood by Her Majesty the Queen, who was only tarnished by the words and the dirty, stinking, rotten gob of Meghan Malarkey, the manipulator, who's bringing out a book after signing a deal with Netflix and Spotify that were already in negotiations before she left the country because she didn't want to be talked about and needed to be private. Just so we're absolutely clear, people. Thank you. You see, they're eating themselves alive. The young ladies want to wear short dresses. I said to her, put a longer dress on. It looks like you're wearing a belt. Well, you see, a lady was nearly arrested yesterday, and this was because she was inappropriately dressed, according to police, at a theme park with her 11-year-old daughter. And it leads to the question, are these role models and inspirations, or are these Me Too nightmares? See, that's the problem, isn't it, with feminism? They're eating themselves alive. Live across the world for a Thursday, this is the Voice of Reason. And ladies, you see, they want to dress as they want to dress, which is fine, but is it inappropriate? The problem with 2021 is we can't work out what we're trying to do. Are we trying to sexy ourselves up, or are we trying to calm ourselves down? Are ladies trying to impress the gentlemen, or are they dressing as they want to dress for their own edification? And why do we need to see what you had for lunch? I mean, surely this has to be unedifying at the very least. Well, a police officer on a theme park yesterday said, you're going to be banged up. Oh, she said, you haven't taken me for dinner yet, I can't go down. Well, this is the problem with 2021. We're trying to work out the rules. Am I meant to look at young women who look beautiful? The dogs don't agree. They think that women who dress like this, you see, are looking to be banged up, and the police have every right to do so. It's confusing, isn't it, 2021, especially being a man, a white middle-aged man, 27 years old, because we don't know what to do. Do we look, not look? Do we get them arrested? Do we call the security? Or is this liberating? Liberating that this woman has got a skirt so short we can see her undercrackers. Oh my God, blow my bloomers. We must look the other way. Security's coming. It's confusing, isn't it?